We are live, and it's time, the time of the week. It is time for Geek Speak, and this week we are doing this in the world of marketing. We're going to go over search, social, websites, and I should have also included in there the AI, because there's been developments in pretty much all those fields. And of course, my name is Phelan with Seymour Digital Media.
I'm Rena from Little Works Indie Media.
And I'm Greg with Original 72 Creative.
Awesome. And I think Rena, do you want to lead us off while I share this into the group,
Oh,
please?
sure. Yeah, there's this extra step to stream into our group. So, yes. So, there are a few things that have been going on in social media. The first thing I wanted to point out is that apparently there are billions of marketing dollars in limbo as companies are organizing for tariffs, and the tariffs come on, the tariffs come off. So people are actually just holding and waiting to see how things are going. So that's actually a really big shift in the market. I also think that leads me to think that maybe it's a good time to put some money into marketing dollars,
Mm-hmm.
because if everyone else is not doing it and it's based on a what is it called? The word bidding. If it's based on bidding and no one else is bidding, so you might actually get some lower cost ad results out there. And it just shocked me that it's a 380 billion American ad industry. Like, that's pretty huge. And if you want more information on that, you can find that in the New York Times report, and we will put that link in the comments for you.
Mm-hmm.
So also, oh yes, so also, TikTok ban is still happening, coming, all this stuff, and despite all of that, TikTok is still the top social platform among U.S. teens. So nearly 50% of teens named TikTok their favorite social platform. I guess I'm a teen wannabe. It is also my favorite. Instagram and Meta are down 0.17%, but still leads overall use with the Gen Z logging in monthly. So TikTok follows at 80% with Snapchat at 70%. And video consumption on YouTube, Netflix is actually honing in on YouTube's um, usage consumption. If that makes any sense, I seem to be stumbling on my words today. I'm not really sure why. So those are kind of the top things. I'm really interested in where the money is going and where people are using what platforms are being used and where the ad spend is going. Which also brings me to Threads, which is a sudden change for what I've known. But they've been maintaining a growth momentum, and Blue X and Blue Sky are slowing down. So I think last month Blue Sky was still going like crazy, but now Threads is reaching 320 million monthly active users, with the still pretty strong download momentum. So that's downloading the app from the app stores. Um, X is still in the lead in user accounts, but I don't know. I kind of think that that's a lame metric to be measuring, because when I go up there, I see a lot of people who have their account still open, but it points people to go either to Mastodon or Blue Sky or somewhere else to find where they actually are having the conversations. And Blue
Yeah.
Sky growth has cooled from 5 million users in early 2024 to 35. It went from 5 million users to 35 million now, but it's cooling, and it's only going to be adding another 5 million in early 2025. So it looks like that's sort of plateauing a little bit. We'll see if they can actually get into other markets, because that's usually how the growth goes now. So especially for Meta, it's other markets, other places in the world that is spearheading the kind of growth that we're talking about. So, and then
Well,
sort of,
I'd also say off of that as well that I read that Zuckerberg had made an announcement that Facebook and Instagram have had an actual downturn in their daily usage I forget, they have like that
Yeah.
weird like internal metric that they kind of float to kind of
Yeah.
but it's apparently the first time that they've openly admitted it's down.
Yeah,
Because
that's not really surprising though. I've seen it in
mm,
my own accounts, and what I've been seeing is their AI is geared towards sending content to people who don't follow you. So, and those people might look, but they're not necessarily going to engage as readily as people that know and trust you. So, I feel like that is might be affecting that, like that could be causing what you're seeing, Phelan.
yeah.
Um, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. I'm actually loving the new algorithm, even though my account doesn't look as interesting. And I did have another colleague try and give me some tips on how to improve. But my watch time on my reels is like way up, way up. I
Hmm.
can't even believe it. Like super up. And I'm like, I don't care what it looks like to everyone else. It's getting some traction in other places, and it's just harder to see that from the outside. You really have to go into your insights and take a peek, a really good deep dive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, it's definitely. I think a lot of attitudes are just shifting right now, and I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, I think that also kind of circling back to when you're talking about money not being spent, the big one that kind of like flashes out to me, that's been a big one, a big sleeper thing is like something like Temu that were basically made their money. They spent like $8 billion on Facebook ads last year.
That's true. They really
And
did. Oh, that's true. I never even made that connection. They were always hunting me on Facebook. I
uh,
felt like I was being hunted.
yeah, well, that's because you were because basically if there wasn't availability, they were going to take up that ad spot, and so I just wonder how a situation like a Temu is going to affect because they were such a big bulk buyer of ads and their
Yeah.
business was dependent on being cheap goods. That
Yeah.
how does that affect like now all of a sudden it costs like twice as much like theoretically whatever the actual
Yeah.
tariffs work out to, but like their business is built off of being cheap and they're
Yeah.
built off of throwing money at the problem until they have market dominance. And so how does that
Yeah.
affect them if they have to like step back from spending all this ad dollars? Like their
Yeah.
business wasn't sustainable to begin with. Like it's an insane proposition that it's like, oh, this is going to
Yeah.
last forever. It's like, no, it wasn't. It was never going to last forever. But
There-
I'm interested to see how that affects the ad market where you take an
Yeah.
$8 billion player off the table
Yeah.
because their
Well,
fundamentals don't work.
even the CAN export grant that's available is really focusing on um, um, exporting your products to other countries than the US. So it's sort of, focusing on really bizarre countries too, like small countries in Asia, like Thailand was one of them, I think. And there were like some really weird propositions. Like if you were going to export to these areas, your likelihood of getting the CAN export grant was higher. Usually it was, to the States and to Europe
Europe,
is what I,
Japan, those are
yeah,
like you're kind of
yeah,
like your G20 countries that are
yeah,
like big. But I know that like there's certain elements that of stuff that Canada just has that other countries would want, and so I think that's a big proposition for it as well. Um,
yeah,
I think that I mean trade. Honestly, the more you look at it, like it's one of those things that you look at it. It's crazy how it works. That how our trade negotiations work, and it's just uh, can drive you a bit insane. The
yeah.
other
I
thing,
think we're all getting a trade lesson in trade.
yeah,
But this is great. This is actually a really great time for digital products in the United States. So if you're selling digital products, of course, that there's no tariff on that at all. So that, and now that the ad spend is down, I'd recommend all digital products creators to be spending on ads and sending it to the states. And
yeah,
that's the strategy I'm using at the moment.
that which makes sense. I also wanted to say one interesting thing that kind of relates to the Timu part that like is just I don't know how it's going to shake out. I was just talking to Greg. We were talking about it just before we started. Is that NVIDIA lost a huge amount of their overall because they were like a $1 trillion company, like
Right.
insanely overvalued, and if they've taken a hit of 5 to 10%, like that's $100 billion that they've lost in
Mhm.
value. And the reason why I mention NVIDIA is that their chips are basically the backbone of AI.
Yeah.
Even with like China and the deep seek using last gen, or yeah, the generation before's chips, they're still you most the people in like the states are using the latest and greatest chips, and those are coming from NVIDIA. So it'll be interesting to see how if they're losing market cap, if that affects how the AI market works, because just how these ripple effects work of like the chips that go into AIs that go into these other companies that are also losing it because of other reasons as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shakes out with the market. I don't have any exact predictions because right now it's just everything's so chaotic that any prediction is going to be false.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting times we're in, but as usual, there are things that are difficult, and then there are these really fabulous little nuggets of opportunity. Um, for some people, I'm not sure if everyone can just start pumping out digital products, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, so then the last thing that I wanted to talk about was about Gen Z. There's a really great report that was put out by Meta, and I will also put that link in the comments about how Gen Z is consuming content. And I think that's a really super valuable piece of information to know. So the highlights are um, video and group chats is the most valuable player. So nearly 70% of Gen Z users on Facebook and Instagram have shared video content with friends or family. And I think that's actually pretty interesting because the share function on Instagram in particular, I know, is weighted heavier for the KPIs in terms of bumping that algorithm for you. So it's great to see that people are actually using the share button rather than just the comments and likes, which is a lower impact on your algorithm. Shares and saves are really the best ones because it triggers the algorithm to say that this content is valuable. People are finding it valuable for themselves. They're sharing it with their friends and they're saving it for later.
Mm-hmm.
And then short form video uh, in the search engine. So more than 80% of Instagram users say that they turn to the platform for self-development. So so that's pretty interesting because they're kind of using the search as again, we've talked about this multiple times, using search as more of a um, oh my goodness, I don't know what's wrong with me
Like
today. I think the
learning
brain must.
opportunity, right? Like
No,
you're
I was thinking of like using it like Google, using it the search for finding information rather than following, like that you can't follow hashtags anymore, but you can definitely. So setting your content up so that your hashtag clearly describes what it is that your content is about is going to really help get your stuff in front of those Gen Zs who are using the search function much more than any other generation. And then the last one is repetition matters. Nearly 70% said seeing an ad multiple times makes them more likely to engage or buy. And I don't know if I'm just like young at heart or immature or what, but I certainly fall for that. I recognize ads. I notice that I've seen them a few times, and if they're targeted correctly, I'm clicking on them and finding out more, and then eventually, not always, but on occasion, more than I like to admit, I do purchase from those ads. So some people are constant. I hear it often in groups, especially of people that are trying to do their own digital marketing. Um, do ads even work? And it's like, yes, they do. and and they might not for everyone, just like how I never click the sponsored ad at the top of Google. But I will click ads in social places. So you might not be a person who clicks ad in social places, but that doesn't mean that that's a typical response from everybody. And so we have to sort of think about what is Gen Z doing. So we'll put that report in the comments if you have anything that's geared towards Gen Z. It's a pretty good document.
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that that's definitely interesting. And it's definitely one that I mean, experimenting with ads, it's like you never really know how people engage with them as well. So it's always worth experimenting, even if it's a
Yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
it's nice to get the data.
Yeah, like I'm having one client that is a game develop or a game publisher, and so they're trying to promote games that are they're publishing, and so we've done experiments with like YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Reddit ads, and so it's nice to get
Yeah.
kind of data to see what actually people engage with because you never know until you actually do it and you have those
Oh, that's
numbers to be
funny.
like.
I've never done Reddit ads before.
Neither had
Never.
I. I'd done it with them. Were already doing it by the time they approached us.
Yeah,
So it was more like we could just see the results. It turned out to be
yeah,
really effective.
really.
Yeah, so games do really well on Reddit because it's kind of the culture. There's a lot of games,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's easy to
That makes
target
sense.
people on Reddit. The other thing is that Reddit's really good for any sort of like non AI based, right? So that's why the Google has that special connection with them, is because anything that's really AI or really heavy handed AI just gets
Yeah,
downvoted, and so it's very clean data that comes out of there as well, which is nice.
right. Excellent. I'm going to look into that. It used to be so much easier when there was only two big games in town.
Yeah,
You could count on that, but now it's almost like you really have to do that segmentation of clients and figure out where exactly are they and test a bunch of different things.
yeah, exactly. And also, a lot of the ads platforms right now have made big improvements with what they
Yeah,
offer. Like LinkedIn's done really well with like if you want to develop an email newsletter, they have like special paid ads and all these like new features that are for email newsletter people. Um,
right.
so stuff like that like they're always expanding, they're always adding new features. So you definitely want to keep tabs on what they're all doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I did. Greg, do you got anything for the website front before I got some SEO
I
stuff?
do, but before we move on to that, I just wanted to ask both of you if you've heard much about Skylight or looked into Skylight, which is a TikTok replacement yet.
No,
I I
I
haven't
have not. I
I haven't.
downloaded Red, but that's a Red Book, but that's it. I think it's called Red Book. What is it called, Phelan? You're going to
It,
correct me, right?
no, you got it.
I
It is
got it?
Redbook.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Good.
Redbook.
But
Yeah,
that's
no,
the actual TikTok in China. Skylight
Yeah,
is
not
a
really.
TikTok replacement built on the
Yeah, I
same
understand.
technology as Blue Sky. So there's
Yeah.
heavy integration there,
All right.
and
oh yeah, you mentioned that before, and I hadn't got it to. I hadn't played around with it. Uh,
it's like a clone of TikTok. Like
yeah,
it doesn't have as many features yet because they're just starting a development and just their initial release on. You can get it on both the Google Play and the Apple App Store.
What's it
But
called again, Greg?
it what's that?
Sorry. What's it called again? I'm just going to see if I actually
Sky
downloaded it.
Skylight app.
Skylight. Okay. Thanks.
And so if you do have a Blue Sky account, it's quite easy to sign up. And actually, I didn't even realize when I got Skylight and signed up. Um, I was just playing around with it, posted a couple of videos, and without me even you know authorizing or knowing, the two my two accounts were synced, so everything I put on Skylight was on my Blue Sky. Um, so, anyways, it's something potentially to watch. It's brand new. It's being backed by Mark Cuban. He's put in funding for it, and a couple other VCs have a first round of money put into it. So
Right.
with everything going on with TikTok, I'm curious to see how Skylight progresses and if it gains any traction with people, unsure of the future of TikTok.
Yeah, I'm going to take a look. I wonder if
yeah.
they're already running ads.
I mean, probably in the first bit, but probably not going to. Right?
No
It's
ads on Skylight. No.
yeah, like even TikTok. Which also, just a quick clarification: ByteDance is the Chinese version. So the parent company of TikTok is called ByteDance, which is different than Redbook, because Redbook is actually put out by the actual government of China.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like they're actually like, it's not even a private company. It's just like straight up like made by their government. Uh, Make of that what you will. But it's just uh, yeah, it's just very much, and it is a reference to Mao's Little Red Book, in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think anyone's got a clear sign or inkling on where this is all going to shake out. Because I mean, Larry Ellison is still, he's quite excited with the prospects of taking over TikTok. He's the CEO of Oracle, and so I know that he's going to be very. He has made it very clear that he would like to, and he's good friends with Trump, and so there's a good chance that it's just going to move over to him.
Oh,
Uh,
really? Do you think?
yeah, I mean, they've been good friends for a long time. So take that what you will, that he's got a good foot in the door. I did have some stuff that's big for SEO.
Yeah,
That
let me just throw out the little bit of WordPress news.
Oh
Everybody
yeah,
probably knows 6.8 was released a week or two ago. Everything seemed to have gone well with the release. I haven't seen any issues, and there's not been any subsequent patch releases from it. I will also say that's it was a major release, and I'm hearing that there won't be any more major releases this year. There will only be minor releases throughout the rest of the year, and I think potentially that's because WordPress laid off 16% of their workforce. So core development has kind of slowed at the moment.
I missed
Uh,
that news. That's
yeah,
a lot.
that came out also a week or two ago, I think, maybe even longer. After he gave the buyout options a couple of months back, and a bunch of people took that this month. They further reduced by 16%. So we'll see where WordPress goes in the future.
yeah. I feel like every tech company right now has had massive layoffs across like 10% to 20% haircuts. Like, I don't know a biz like one of the major tech companies that hasn't had that right now. Um, I mean, uh, happy to stand corrected on that one, but it feels like everyone across the board, especially if you're publicly traded. I don't think Automatic's publicly traded, is it? It's a private company.
No.
Yeah. So that's interesting as well. That if you're a private company, that there would be any announcements about layoffs and that kind of stuff as well. Um, uh, okay, just because we got now 6 minutes left. Okay, I'm gonna quickly run through the SEO stuff, and there's some AI stuff as well that's interesting. That's come out. Big one happened with Google. Is so there's like a document that Google gets people to review manually a website to do like a quality assessment on them. So it's not just automated. And so I think a big one that I saw that was interesting is that they're getting those manual reviews to include, does this AI content feel, or does this content feel AI generated? Because humans
Oh,
are still pretty
interesting.
good at picking up on those trends of, there's certain words, certain phrases that if you just are very heavy handed with like just all AI generated, no edits, that you're going to get dinged for that, which I think is for the best. Because I know Google's having a lot of issues with when you have AI generated content and then that gets fed back into the AI systems and AI large
It's
language
like
models.
photocopy and a photocopy.
Yeah, or the other term I've heard is digital dementia, where
Oh,
your
interesting.
brain starts eating itself, and so
Oh,
you
God.
yeah, which is one of the saving graces of why I think there's not going to be some sort of like AI like Skynet type situation is like it's eating its own self already and it hasn't even gotten started really, and so there's a lot of aspects to it that I don't think are going to be as revolutionary because it's just limited on how much info it can get. But it's interesting to see what's the update. So again, original content, well researched content, well citations, external sources. Those are all going to be super valuable for your content in order to compete with any website that's using a lot of AI slop. Like Forbes was busted last year for basically having one of their writers was actually just an AI bot that was just generating content.
Yeah, I heard about that. And they
Yeah,
had
and
like this cute little profile and everything.
yeah, and it wound up costing them 3 times as much because the editors were more expensive than the writers, and the editors had to go back and all like update it.
And
So it
fix
wound up being like a
everything.
huge boondoggle,
Yeah.
uh, which I'm not going to go through the etymology of boondoggle, but that's a really good word that I always forget that has an awesome etymology. Um,
I'll have to look
uh,
that.
it's a 1930s make work project in the United States, and it was to make like a little handkerchief thing, and the thing was
Mm.
called a boondoggle, and so that's why anytime you have like a project that's like wasteful spending, it's called a boondoggle for that. Um,
Okay.
I didn't know I was going to get that out that quickly. Okay, there's also been a bunch of updates on the AI, the large language model stuff. So it looks like pretty much everyone across the board has got a new model out right now. Let me find. I got it in the notes. Um, so Gemini 2.0 just came out. There's also ChatGPT has got OpenAI's ChatGPT has gone to 4.1. As long as there's another O4 Mini. Uh, I mean, I find them to be like minor, like minor differences between them. Like I haven't really noticed them being like, oh, this one's like infinitely better at this. I don't know if you guys have seen huge differences in the AI models themselves, but I mean, for my own sake, I haven't really seen it.
No, I've been just sticking to one and getting used to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I haven't used enough of them um, enough to see or any noticeable differences.
yeah. Even ones of like the coding ones where I find the coding is probably the best thing that the AI is really good at doing. I found them to all be like I've hit some very hard edges where it just was like gave me just nothing back, and it didn't matter the model, it didn't matter any of that. Like they were just like, we don't understand this question that you're asking us. I'm like, okay. So I haven't noticed them like they've all kind of had shortcomings in certain fields when I ask it too complex a question. um
When Pip and I were doing one of our prep research for one of our episodes of last month, I think it was, she put some questions through, I think, four or five AI, and then threw them into a spreadsheet. There wasn't a huge difference among all of them for as far as how they answer things, at
yeah,
least at the simple level, because we weren't asking particularly complex questions, but we were hoping to find some interesting alternative ways of thinking about things, and it was pretty standard.
yeah, that scans to my experience as well.
Mhm.
I feel like there's some incremental updates. I know Pip's been exploring AI agents and has had some success with it. I
Yeah,
still have to recur over it just to make sure it's not hallucinating stuff because they're notorious for doing that stuff as well. So they may get some stuff correct and other stuff incorrect. So always double check the work that they do. But at least they're
yeah,
getting better at doing citations and stuff like that, so you can actually review it with the
yeah.
team and kind of like go back and be like, oh, this is actually all wrong for this reason, or this was great insight because of this reason.
I
Um,
do find it really funny that when sometimes it gives you an answer if you ask a question and it doesn't feel right, I don't actually test it, but it doesn't feel right. So then I ask, "Are you sure?" And then it gives me a whole different answer. You know,
yeah,
it's like, "Are you sure?" That
Now that
doesn't
I
sound
think about it,
sounds really fishy to me. Are you sure? And I can't remember what it says, but it's actually kind of cute the way it says, "Oh, on second glance," and I'm like, "You're glancing every piece of information online on
yeah,
second glance." Anyways, it cracks me up sometimes.
yeah, for sure. I've definitely had situations where I'm also like thinking about it practically. Like, how did you derive that answer? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't believe you. Not for like the
Yeah.
any reason other than like I know how I would go about solving that problem, and you didn't
Yeah.
like have anything that like didn't touch any of the tools that I would have used. So
Yeah.
there's
Although it really helped me to work out the power usage of my websites. It created a whole formula for me, and I had to work at it for probably about an hour, getting more specific. Like, that's not quite right. Look at it from this view. That's not quite the answer that I'm looking for. And then finally, it gave me a really great formula that I am currently using, and you have to test it. So, and I think that's the thing, is that if you don't have any sort of ability to conceive of the problem and understand the problem well, then it's really actually hard to get the right answer and be confident that you have the right answer from AI without actually, really looking at it. So sometimes it can save you some time. I've definitely used it lots of cases to save time. But in other scenarios, it's like, okay, well, this gives me a starting point. Now I need to go check it. I need to find an expert in this arena who can, like, I looked for an engineer, and are they going to be able to check it for me now,
yeah.
um, and I feel like lots of users are a little bit, not, I wouldn't say lazy or sloppy, they just maybe don't have that kind of patience or understanding or
Or
interest.
I would say even cynicism. I'm highly skeptical of any AI. Like, you need to do a lot of work to prove yourself to me as an AI,
Yeah,
just because I've seen so many of the downsides and negative cases that
yeah,
I'm. It's the same reason why like I don't like PayPal. It's because I worked at
yeah,
Shopify, and the only thing I heard about PayPal is when things were going wrong, and so I knew all the edge cases of all the bad things that could go wrong, and so I
yeah,
was all like, "Don't touch PayPal." Like, I obviously
yeah,
when I've used it personally, it's been fine. I don't use it that much, but
yeah,
you know how
yeah.
it can kind of, if you're overly accepting
Well,
and not,
that's how you develop bias, right? You only get one particular slice of the whole picture.
and you can't step back to be like, hey, maybe I'm overcorrecting for a thing that I
Yeah,
didn't know that I was doing. Uh,
yeah,
and it requires some insight on your own part as to just be like,
yeah,
hey, maybe I shouldn't just take this at face value type situation.
yeah,
So I think that a lot of people are, and also like pretty much everything in the news is telling you that these AI things are going to become God. Like if you read any sort of headline, none of them, there's no headline that's been like, actually, it turns out they're mostly wrong. Like they're mostly like saying the AI tech people are being like, hey, they're going to take over everything and they're going to replace everyone's jobs. When like that's just marketing for the most part. That there's no
yeah.
real there in a lot of ways.
Although there have been jobs lost due to AI, that's for sure.
But again, that's marketing. That's
Yeah.
public companies saying to their
Mm,
investors, "Hey, I just saved a bunch of money by switching over to
mm,
AI. Is the
yeah.
product better? No, it's not. It's just I fired a lot of people, so I don't have to pay them." So those two things are both can be true at the same time. Uh,
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap up because we're about four
yes,
minutes over. Sorry.
yes, no worries.
But we should probably schedule an AI conversation in depth for one of our episodes. It seems like we've got lots to say on that matter.
Whatever do you mean? Um, yes, I figure at some point probably. Yeah, I think that would be a good idea at some point. But I think, yeah, today I think we covered a lot of ground, a lot of the news that's going on. If you have any further comments, join us in Business Marketing Mixer. I'm sorry, this is the old graphics. I have not got the new graphics from Pip just yet, but I will for the next time. Uh,
I
and
think there's a saved profile. I was able to just access the saved profile from my computer. But
Yes, I haven't got like
ah,
it needs to be
got it.
emailed to me, and then I
Okay.
can upload it onto my
Oh, no,
Ecamm.
that's what I'm saying, is that it was actually just something I was able to click on Ecamm. But anyways, I could show you that after the call because that's
Yeah,
the only thing I know about Ecamm. All right, Coolio. Thank you so much. And we'll be back next Thursday with another episode of Geek Speak. And I'm just quickly trying to find the topic for us. I
The
believe,
topic is creating marketing campaigns with a human touch, marketing that truly
yes,
connects,
yes,
and that's going to be
perfect.
with you. And
And Pip, yes. So join us next week at 11 a.m. Pacific time, anywhere that you found this, or come back for the replay. And I'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.